The morning started like any other on Earth. Admiral Kim Tae-ho was drinking his coffee in his office at Terran Defense Command when the alarms began screaming. Red lights flashed across every screen in the building. His aide rushed in, face pale, with terror. "Sir, we have a massive contact at the edge of the solar system. It just appeared out of nowhere." Kim set down his cup and walked to the main command center. On the giant display screen, a ship hung in space near Pluto. But calling it a ship was like calling a mountain a rock. The vessel was over 50 kilometers long, black as space itself, and covered in weapons that could destroy entire planets. "What do we know about it?" Kim asked. Dr. Park Minji stepped forward. She was the best alien expert Earth had. Her hands shook as she read from her tablet. "The design matches Vorthak Empire ships. Admiral, if this is really them, we are in serious trouble." Kim had heard stories about the Vorthak. Every species in the galaxy feared them. They had conquered most of the known worlds and turned entire civilizations into slaves, but they had never come to Earth before. "Are they attacking?" Kim asked. "No, sir. They are just sitting there, but they are scanning everything. Our ships, our defenses, our cities. They know everything about us now." Captain Lee Dong-hyuk ran into the command center. His uniform was wrinkled like he had been sleeping. "Admiral, my ship is ready for battle. Just give the order." Kim shook his head. "One ship against that monster. We would need our entire fleet and it still would not be enough." The waiting was terrible. Hours passed. The alien ship just floated there, watching them. Earth's defense fleet moved into position, but everyone knew it was pointless. If the Vorthak wanted to destroy them, they could do it easily. Then the message came. Every screen on Earth lit up at the same time. Every radio, every phone, every computer showed the same thing. A massive alien face appeared. Its skin was gray and covered in scars. Its eyes glowed red like burning coals. When it spoke, its voice was like thunder. "Humans of Terra, I am War Prime, Thakmor of the Vorthak Empire. You have impressed us with your wars and your expansion across the stars. This is rare. Most species we find are weak and boring." The alien paused. Behind him, other creatures moved in shadows. They were tall and dangerous looking. "We offer you honor. We challenge your species to single combat. Choose your greatest warrior. Send them to fight our champion. If your warrior wins, we will leave your space forever. If our champion wins, your species will serve the Vorthak Empire until the end of time." Kim felt his blood turn to ice. Around him, people gasped and whispered in fear. "You have 7 of your days to decide. Choose wisely, humans. Our champion has never been defeated. 47 species have sent their best warriors against him. All have died. Their worlds now serve us." The message ended. The screens went dark. The command center was silent except for the sound of people breathing hard. Dr. Park spoke first. "We cannot fight them. The Vorthak champion is called the Void Render. I have read reports from the few survivors of conquered worlds. It can tear through spaceship metal with its bare hands. Plasma cannons cannot hurt it. It has killed warriors from dozens of different species." "What if we refuse the challenge?" someone asked. "Then they attack us anyway," Park replied. "But first they will broadcast our refusal to the entire galaxy. Every species will know humans are cowards. No one will help us." Kim stared at the empty screen where the alien face had been. "Tell me about the fights. How does this champion kill? Our enemies?" Park looked through her files. "The battles are always public. The whole galaxy watches. The Vorthak champion does not just kill quickly. It plays with its enemies. It hurts them slowly. It makes them suffer. Then it kills them in front of everyone. The message is clear. This is what happens when you fight the Vorthak." "How long do the fights last?" Captain Lee asked. "The longest was 12 minutes. The shortest was 3 minutes. Most end in less than 5 minutes." Engineer Han Soo-young had been quiet until now. She was young, but brilliant at making weapons. What if we cheated? What if we gave our fighters special equipment or drugs to make them stronger? "The rules allow any equipment," Park said, "but it has never mattered. The Vorthak champion adapts to everything. It learns how to fight any opponent within minutes. Kim walked to the window. He could see people in the streets below. They were looking up at the sky, probably wondering if death was coming from space. Children played in parks. Families walked together. In 7 days, all of this might belong to alien masters. "We need to call an emergency meeting," Kim said. "Every world leader, every general, every scientist. If we are going to die, we die fighting." The next few hours were chaos. Messages flew between Earth and the 43 human colony worlds. Some leaders wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to fight the entire Vorthak fleet. A few suggested running away to unknown parts of space. But one message stood out from the others. It came from Kepler Station, a military base near the edge of human space. The message was short. "I volunteer to be humanity's champion." Sergeant Major Yoon Ji-won, Terran Special Forces. Kim looked up her military record. Yoon Ji-won was 32 years old. She had fought in the Centauri Wars and dozens of smaller battles. Her unit had been wiped out by alien pirates 5 years ago. She was the only survivor. Since then, she had been humanity's most decorated soldier. She was also completely human. No alien technology in her body, no super strength. Just a soldier who had lost everything and kept fighting anyway. Dr. Park read the file over Kim's shoulder. "She is brave, but she is just human. The Void Render has killed warriors who could lift tanks and survive in space without suits. How can one human woman defeat something like that?" Kim thought about the message from War Prime Thakmor. The alien had called humans impressive because of their wars and expansion. But maybe that was not what made humans special. Maybe it was something else. "Send word to all our colonies," Kim said. "We accept the challenge. Sergeant Major Yoon Ji-won will represent humanity." "Sir, this is suicide," Captain Lee said. Kim nodded. "Probably. But if we are going to lose, we lose fighting. That is what humans do." As night fell over Earth, people gathered in the streets to look at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien monster waited to kill their champion. But they would face it anyway. Because that was what it meant to be human. The challenge was accepted. In 7 days, the strongest warrior in the universe would face a human woman who refused to give up. Everyone expected her to die. They were about to learn. They were wrong about everything. Sergeant Major Yoon Ji-won arrived on Earth 12 hours after sending her message. She stepped off the transport ship looking exactly like what she was, a soldier ready to die for her people. Her face showed no fear, only determination. "Admiral." Kim met her at the landing pad. "Are you sure about this, Sergeant Major? We still have 6 days to find someone else." Ji-won shook her head. "There is no one else, sir. And even if there was, this is my choice to make." Dr. Choi Kyung-soo was waiting for them in the medical lab. He was Earth's best expert on making humans stronger with technology. His lab looked like something from a science fiction movie, full of machines that could rebuild a person from the inside out. "I have been working on enhancements for years," Dr. Choi explained, "but I never tested them on humans. The process could kill you before you even get to fight." Ji-won looked at the machines. "What kind of enhancements? Stronger muscles, faster reactions, bones that will not break, skin that can stop bullets. But the changes are so extreme that your body might reject them. We have 6 days to do what normally takes 6 months." "Then we better start now," Ji-won said. While Dr. Choi prepared the enhancement equipment, engineer Han Soo-young worked on weapons and armor. She had not slept since the challenge arrived. Her workspace was covered with designs and broken prototypes. "Normal weapons will not work," Han explained to Admiral Kim. "The Void Render's skin can stop tank shells. But I have an idea. What if we use the human body's own electricity?" She showed him a strange-looking device. It was small enough to fit in Ji-won's hand but glowed with blue energy. "I call it the equalizer. It takes the electricity from human nerves and muscles and turns it into a weapon. The more determined the user is, the more powerful it becomes. Only humans can use it because only humans fight with this kind of emotional strength. Colonel Baek Ji-young entered the workshop. She had been Ji-won's commander during the Centauri Wars. Her face was full of worry. "This is madness," Colonel Baek said. "Ji-won, you do not have to do this. We can find another way." Ji-won turned to face her old friend. "What other way? Run away? Hide? Let our children grow up as slaves? No. Someone has to make a stand." "But why you? Why does it have to be you?" Ji-won was quiet for a moment, then she spoke in a voice so soft only Colonel Baek could hear. "Because I already died 5 years ago. When my unit was killed and I survived, part of me died too. This is my chance to make that death mean something." Colonel Baek remembered that day. Ji-won's team had been protecting civilian ships from alien pirates. The battle was hopeless, but they fought anyway. When rescue ships arrived, they found 23 dead soldiers and 1 unconscious survivor. Ji-won had been buried under the wreckage, knocked out by an explosion that saved her life. "You saved those civilians," Colonel Baek said. "You did. Your duty. My duty was to die with my team. I failed them. I will not fail humanity." Dr. Park Min-ji burst into the room holding a tablet. Her face was white with terror. "We have a problem, a big problem." She activated the main screen. It showed space near Neptune. What they saw made everyone's blood freeze. The single Vorthak ship was no longer alone. Dozens of other ships had appeared, hiding behind the gas giant. "It is an invasion fleet," Dr. Park said. "They never planned to honor the challenge results. Win or lose, they are going to attack us." Admiral Kim felt anger replace his fear. "They lied to us." "Not exactly," Dr. Park said. "I studied Vorthak culture more. The challenge is real. But if we lose, they invade immediately. If we win, they wait 1 year, then come back with more ships. Either way, we are doomed." Ji-won stepped forward. "Then we make sure the galaxy sees them for what they really are. Liars and bullies who cannot win a fair fight." "The galaxy already knows what they are," Dr. Park said. "Fear makes people accept terrible things. Then we show them something different. We show them that someone will fight back." The enhancement process began that night. Ji-won lay on a medical table while machines pumped new chemicals into her blood. Her bones were reinforced with metal threads. Her muscles were rebuilt to be 3 times stronger. Her nervous system was rewired to process information faster. Dr. Choi monitored everything. Her body is accepting the changes, but the pain must be incredible. Through it all, Ji-won never made a sound. She just stared at the ceiling and endured it. On the second day, technician Nam Hyun-woo arrived with prototype armor. It was unlike anything humans had built before. The metal seemed to flow like liquid but was harder than diamond. "Nano armor," Nam explained. "It spreads impact across the entire surface. A direct hit from a tank cannon would feel like a strong punch, but it has never been tested against Vorthak weapons." "It will have to do," Admiral Kim said. By the 3rd day, reports started coming in from across human space. The Vorthak fleet was moving. Ships were positioning themselves near every human colony. The message was clear: surrender or watch your worlds burn. But something unexpected happened. Other alien species started sending messages to Earth. Not governments or military forces, but ordinary people who had lived under Vorthak rule. "Fight them," said one message from a survivor on Rigel 7. "We could not, but maybe you can." "Show the galaxy that someone will not kneel," said another from Proxima Station. Hundreds of messages arrived, thousands, all saying the same thing: fight back. On the 4th day, Ji-won's enhancements were complete. She stood up from the medical table, looking almost the same as before, but Admiral Kim could see the difference in her eyes. They glowed slightly in the dim light, and when she moved, it was with perfect balance and control. "How do you feel?" Dr. Choi asked. "Different," Ji-won said. "Stronger, but still human." Han Soo-young brought the finished weapons and armor. The equalizer had been built into Ji-won's gloves. The nano armor fit like a second skin but could stop bullets and plasma beams. "Remember," Han said. The equalizer works on emotion. The more you care about winning, the more powerful it becomes. Do not try to stay calm. Let yourself feel everything. On the 5th day, the Galactic Council sent representatives to witness the challenge. They came not because they supported humanity, but because they wanted to see how long Earth's champion would last against the Void Render. On the 6th day, Jiwan spent time alone in a small room. She looked at pictures of her dead team members and wrote letters to people she would never see again. She was ready to die, but she was also ready to make her death count for something. On the 7th day, War Prime Thakmor sent the coordinates for the battle. It would take place on a dead world called Arena Prime, a planet the Vorthak had built just for their challenges. As Jiwan boarded the transport ship that would take her to face the Void Render, she turned to Admiral Kim one last time. If I die, make sure people remember why I fought. Not for glory or revenge, but because someone had to stand up and say no. The ship launched toward Arena Prime, carrying humanity's only hope into the darkness of space. Arena Prime was not a natural world. The Vorthak had built it from the bones of a dead planet, turning the entire surface into one massive fighting ground. The arena itself was a dome of alien metal that could contain weapons powerful enough to crack moons. Jiwan's transport ship landed on the edge of the arena. Through the windows, she could see hundreds of other ships. Representatives from dozens of species had come to watch what they believed would be humanity's final humiliation. Some came to gloat, others came to learn. A few came to mourn. Ambassador Chen Sang-wook met Jiwan at the landing ramp. He was Earth's best diplomat, but his face showed he had already given up hope. I tried to negotiate, Chen said. I offered them territory, resources, even military service. They are not interested. They want the fight. Good, Jiwan replied. So do I. They walked toward the arena entrance. Along the way, they passed groups of aliens from conquered worlds. These beings had once been free. Now they wore the metal collars of Vorthak slaves. When they saw Jiwan, some looked away in shame. Others watched with desperate hope. An old alien with blue skin and 6 arms approached them. His collar was older than the others, showing he had been a slave for many years. I am Kelvor of Antares, he said in broken human language. My people fought the Void Render 40 years ago. Our champion was the strongest warrior of our generation. The battle lasted 4 minutes. What happened? Jiwan asked. The Void Render did not just kill him. It broke his spirit first. It made him beg for mercy in front of our entire species. Then it killed him slowly while we watched. We have been broken ever since. Jiwan looked at the old alien's collar. What was your champion's? Mistake? Kelvor thought for a moment. He fought with honor. He followed the rules of combat our people had used for thousands of years. The Void Render has no honor. It fights only to win. Then I will not fight with honor either, Jiwan said. Inside the arena, the dome stretched up so high it disappeared in shadow. The fighting ground was a circle of black stone surrounded by viewing platforms where thousands of aliens watched. At the center stood War Prime Thakmor, even more terrifying in person than on the broadcast. Beside him stood the Void Render. The creature was 12 feet tall and covered in gray skin that looked like armor. Its arms ended in claws that could slice through steel. Its eyes were black holes that seemed to absorb light. When it moved, there was no sound, as if death itself was walking. War Prime. Thakmor spoke to the crowd. His voice echoed through the dome like thunder. 47 species have sent their champions to face us. 47 champions have died. Today the humans join this list of failures. Let all witness what happens to those who oppose the Vorthak. Empire. The crowd grew quiet. Some aliens looked excited, others seemed sad. All of them expected the same result. Jiwan walked to the center of the arena. Her nano armor was hidden under simple human clothes. The equalizer was built into her, gloves invisible until activated. To everyone watching, she looked like an ordinary human woman about to die. The Void Render studied her with those terrible black eyes. It had seen thousands of warriors over the centuries. Massive aliens with 4 arms and metal skin. Creatures that could breathe fire and lift mountains. Energy beings that existed as pure light. All of them had died. This human looked weak by comparison. Soft skin, small muscles, no natural weapons. The Void Render almost seemed disappointed. "Begin," War Prime Thakmor commanded. The Void Render moved faster than thought. One moment it was 20 feet away. The next moment its claws were inches from Jiwan's throat. But she was not there anymore. The enhancements Dr. Choi had given her allowed Jiwan to see the attack coming and dodge at the last second. She rolled to the side and came up running. The crowd gasped. No one had ever avoided the Void Render's opening attack. The creature turned to follow her movement. Its black eyes showed surprise for the first time in decades. Jiwan did not try to face the monster directly. Instead, she used the arena itself as a weapon. She grabbed chunks of broken stone and threw them at the Void Render's eyes. When that did not work, she kicked dust into the air to confuse its vision. The Void Render adapted quickly. It began predicting where Jiwan would move next. Its claws came closer to hitting her with each attack. The crowd started to relax. This would end like all the others. But Jiwan was learning too. She noticed the Void Render always attacked the same way. It relied on speed and strength, but not creativity. It had won so many battles that it had stopped growing as a fighter. She activated the equalizer for the first time. Blue energy crackled around her hands as the device turned her determination into raw power. When the Void Render lunged at her, again she grabbed its arm and sent electricity coursing through its body. The creature screamed and stumbled backward. In the viewing stands, aliens jumped to their feet in shock. No one had ever hurt the Void Render before. But the victory was short. The Void Render's skin adapted to the electrical attack within seconds. When Jiwan tried the same move again, the electricity had no effect. The creature backhanded her across the arena. Even with nano armor absorbing most of the impact, the blow cracked 3 of her ribs. She crashed into the arena wall hard enough to leave a crater in the stone. War Prime Thakmor laughed. The human shows spirit, but spirit alone cannot defeat perfection. Jiwan pulled herself out of the crater. Blood ran from her mouth, but her eyes still burned with determination. She looked up at the viewing stands and saw the faces of enslaved aliens watching her. Their expressions had changed from hopelessness to something else. Not quite hope, but not despair either. She thought about her dead teammates, about the children playing in Earth's parks, about all the species that had fallen before this monster. Her anger gave the equalizer more power than it had ever channeled before, but as she prepared for the next exchange, something impossible happened. The arena floor began to crack open. 3 more identical creatures climbed out of hidden chambers beneath the fighting ground. 4 Void Renders now surrounded her. The crowd fell silent in horror. War Prime. Thakmor's laughter filled the arena. Did you think we would risk everything on a fair fight? The Void Render is not one being, but many. Every species that has faced us learned this truth too late. Jiwan looked at the 4 monsters closing in on her. Her nano armor was already damaged, her ribs were broken. The equalizer was running at maximum power, but it might not be enough against 4 opponents. She should have been terrified. Instead, she smiled. "You just made a big mistake," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. "You showed the galaxy that the mighty Vorthak Empire are nothing but cheaters and liars." The 4 Void Renders attacked together. 4 Void Renders moved like shadows of death around Jiwan. Their claws gleamed in the arena lights as they closed in for the kill. Every being in the stands watched in stunned silence. This was supposed to be single combat, but the Vorthak had revealed their true nature. Jiwan dodged the first attack by inches. The second attack tore through her shirt and scratched her nano armor. The third attack missed because she rolled under it. But the fourth attack caught her in the shoulder, sending her spinning across the arena floor. She came up bleeding but still fighting. The crowd of enslaved aliens leaned forward in their seats. They had never seen anyone survive this long against even 1 Void Render, let alone 4. Fight them, someone whispered from the stands. Then others joined in. Fight them! Fight them! Soon hundreds of voices were chanting together, defying their Vorthak masters for the first time in years. War Prime Thakmor snarled and gestured to his guards. Silence those slaves. But the chanting spread. Beings from dozens of conquered worlds stood up and raised their voices. The Vorthak guards moved to stop them, but there were too many. For the first time in the Empire's history, the slaves were not afraid. In the arena, Jiwan heard the voices and felt new strength flow through her body. The equalizer responded to her emotions, glowing brighter as her determination grew. She was not just fighting for humanity anymore. She was fighting for everyone who had ever been forced to kneel before the Vorthak. The 4 Void Renders attacked, again, but something had changed. Their movements were not perfectly coordinated anymore. Jiwan realized they shared one mind, and that mind was being distracted by the rebellion in the stands. She used their confusion to her advantage. When 2 of them lunged at her together, she dropped flat and let them crash into each other. When the third one tried to grab her from behind, she activated her armor's emergency systems and became too slippery to hold. But she was still losing. The nano armor was failing in several places. Her enhanced muscles were running out of energy. The equalizer was overheating from constant use. She needed to end this fight soon, or she would die slowly. That was when she remembered something engineer Han Soo-young had told her. The equalizer was powered by human emotions, but it had one more function. It could be overloaded to release all its energy at once. The explosion would be powerful enough to level a city block. It would also kill the person using it. Ji-won looked up at the viewing stands where Ambassador Chen sat with the other humans. She thought about Admiral Kim back on Earth, probably watching this battle and hoping for a miracle. She thought about Colonel Bayek, who had begged her not to take this mission. Most of all, she thought about her dead teammates from 5 years ago. They had died protecting innocent people. Now it was her turn. She grabbed the nearest void render around the waist and activated the overload sequence. The creature tried to break free, but her enhanced strength held it tight. The other 3 renders moved to help their brother, but Ji-won was already glowing with deadly energy. "This is for everyone you murdered," she said, "and everyone you turned into slaves." The explosion lit up the entire arena like a newborn star. The dome's protective systems barely contained the blast. When the light faded, there was a crater, 50 feet wide in the arena floor. At the center lay Ji-won, her body broken but her eyes still open. Around her were the remains of all 4 void renders. The creatures that had seemed invincible were now just scattered pieces of alien flesh and metal. The arena was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. The impossible had happened. The void render was dead. War Prime. Thakmor stared at the crater in disbelief. In 1,000 years of conquest, no species had ever defeated his champions. His empire was built on the fear of the void render. If word of this defeat spread, rebellions would erupt on every world. "The human cheated," he declared loudly. "She used forbidden weapons. The challenge is invalid." But his words sounded hollow. Everyone had seen the fight. Everyone knew Ji-won had won through courage and sacrifice, not trickery. Ambassador Chen stood up in the viewing section. The terms were clear. Any equipment was allowed. Sergeant Major Ji-won followed your rules and defeated your champion. Honor. The agreement. War Prime Thakmor's face twisted with rage. "We honor nothing. The Vorthak take what we want. Your champion is dead. Your species will still serve us." That was when Ji-won spoke from the crater. Her voice was weak, but everyone in the arena could hear it. "I am not dead yet. And I have a message for Admiral Kim." She activated her suit's emergency transmitter. Her words were broadcast not just to the arena, but to every ship and every world in the region. "Admiral, they never planned to honor the Yui Air Challenge. Their invasion fleet is already moving. Tell humanity to fight. Tell the galaxy that someone finally said no to these bullies." War Prime Thakmor ordered his guards to stop the transmission, But it was too late. The message was already spreading across space at light speed. Ji-won closed her eyes and thought about Earth. She pictured children playing in parks and families eating dinner together. She had given them a chance to stay free. Whether they could keep that freedom was up to them now. "Tell Colonel Beck I kept my promise," she whispered. "I did not fail this time." The arena's medical systems registered the moment her heart stopped beating. Sergeant Major Yoon Ji-won, humanity's champion, was dead. But something extraordinary happened next. Instead of celebrating their victory, the Vorthak guards looked nervous. The enslaved aliens in the stands were no longer cowering in fear. They stood tall and looked their masters in the eye. On ships throughout the galaxy, crews that had served the Vorthak for generations began asking questions. If one human woman could defeat the Void Render, what else was possible? Dr. Park Minji, watching from the human observation deck, understood what Ji-won had really accomplished. She had not just won a fight. She had broken the spell of Vorthak invincibility that had kept the galaxy in chains for centuries. War Prime Thakmor realized it too. He screamed orders at his fleet commanders. The invasion had to begin immediately, before the rebellion could spread. But it was already too late. On distant worlds, Vorthak governors reported that their slave populations were refusing to work. Some were openly attacking their guards. The empire that had ruled through fear was discovering what happened when people stopped being afraid. Admiral Kim received Ji-won's final message while standing in Earth's war room. Around him, every screen showed Vorthak ships moving toward human colonies. The invasion was beginning just as Ji-won had warned, but Kim was not afraid anymore. Ji-won had shown them something important. The Vorthak were not gods. They were bullies who won through trickery and intimidation. And like all bullies, they could be beaten. He opened a communication channel to every human world and every ship in the fleet. "This is Admiral Kim Tae-ho. You have all seen what Sergeant Major Ji-won did today. She faced impossible odds and won. Now they are coming for all of us. We will show them what happens when you threaten humanity." He paused and looked at a picture of Ji-won on his desk. She was smiling in the photo, surrounded by her teammates before that final battle 5 years ago. They wanted our strongest warrior. They got her. Now they get all of us. Across human space, ships powered up their weapons and prepared for war. The real fight was just beginning. The Vorthak invasion began at exactly the same time across 43 human worlds. Their strategy was simple and had never failed before. Overwhelming force applied quickly would break human resistance before it could organize. Within days, humanity would surrender just like every other species. They were wrong about everything. On New Shanghai, General Oh Seung-hoon watched enemy ships fill the sky above his city. His defense forces were outnumbered 10-1. Any reasonable commander would have surrendered immediately. Instead, he activated the city's hidden weapons. Every building became a fortress. Every street became a trap. When Vorthak ground forces landed, they found themselves fighting an entire population that refused to quit. "Sir, we are taking heavy losses," his aide reported. "Maybe we should consider terms of surrender." General O shook his head while watching human civilians join the fight with hunting rifles and farming tools. "Look at them. Do those people look like they want to surrender?" An old woman ran past carrying ammunition to the front lines. A group of teenagers had turned their school into a weapons factory. Even the children were helping by carrying messages and supplies. Ji-won showed us something important, General O said. "The Vorthak can be beaten. We just have to be willing to pay the price." On Kepler Station, Captain Shin Yejin led a different kind of resistance. Her forces were too small to fight the Vorthak directly, so they used guerrilla tactics instead. Hit-and-run attacks, sabotage, psychological warfare. Her specialty was making the Vorthak afraid of humans. Her teams would strike at night, leaving behind messages written in the aliens' own language. "Ji-won is watching you. Humans do not forgive. Your empire ends here." The Vorthak had conquered through fear for so long that they did not know how to handle being afraid themselves. Their soldiers started making mistakes. Some refused to patrol alone. Others jumped at shadows. The beauty of fighting bullies Captain Shin explained to our officers, is that they are only brave when they think they cannot lose. Make them doubt their victory and they start falling apart. But the most important battle was happening in space around Earth itself. Admiral Kim had turned the entire solar system into a fortress. Every asteroid had weapons. Every space station was ready to fight to the last person. The Vorthak fleet arrived expecting an easy victory. They found something they had never seen before, a species that would rather die than kneel. The Battle of Luna lasted 3 days. Human ships threw themselves at Vorthak dreadnoughts like missiles. When their weapons ran out, they rammed enemy vessels. When their ships were destroyed, the crews continued fighting in spacesuits with whatever tools they could find. Captain Lee Dong-hyuk commanded the human flagship during the battle. His ship was the last one standing when the Vorthak finally retreated. As he watched the alien fleet pull back, he made an important discovery. "Admiral, you need to see this," Lee said over the communication channel. "I have been analyzing their ship designs and battle tactics. These are not the actions of a strong species. These are the actions of a desperate one." Admiral Kim studied the data Lee was sending. "What do you mean?" "Look at their technology. It has not changed in hundreds of years. Their tactics are the same ones they used on the first species they conquered. They are not advancing anymore. They are just repeating old patterns." Dr. Lim Ji-hwan, humanity's best military scientist, had been studying recordings of the battles. His analysis supported Lee's theory. "The Vorthak are not a warrior race," Dr. Lim reported. "They are a dying race. All their genetic modifications have made them sterile. They cannot reproduce naturally anymore. Every Vorthak alive today is artificially created." This news changed everything. The Vorthak were not expanding their empire because they were strong. They were expanding it because they were desperate. Each conquest gave them new genetic material to try to fix their reproduction problem. That is why they wanted strong opponents, Admiral Kim realized. They were not looking for sport. They were looking for genetic samples that might save their species. The revelation spread quickly through human space and beyond. Species that had lived in terror of the Vorthak for centuries suddenly understood the truth. Their conquerors were not gods. They were a dying race trying to survive by stealing from others. Rebellions erupted on dozens of Vorthak-controlled worlds. The empire that had ruled through fear found itself fighting wars on hundreds of fronts. Their military designed to crush. Quick resistance was not prepared for sustained fighting against multiple enemies. Dr. Park Min-ji had been working with resistance leaders from conquered species. Together, they developed new tactics based on what Ji-won had shown them in the arena. The Vorthak adapt quickly to direct attacks, Dr. Park explained in a broadcast to rebel forces across the galaxy. But they cannot adapt to creativity and unpredictability. Fight like humans fight. Use your environment. Break their rules. Make them face something they have never seen before. The advice worked. On Rigel 7, rebels used the planet's extreme weather against Vorthak forces. On Proxima Station, former slaves turned the station's life support systems into weapons. On dozens of other worlds, people who had been broken by centuries of oppression remembered what it meant to fight back. But the Vorthak still had one advantage. Their homeworld was heavily defended and contained most of their population. War Prime Thakmor had retreated there with his remaining fleet. "We can win this war," Admiral Kim told the combined human and rebel fleet gathering near the edge of Vorthak space. "But it will cost us everything. They will not surrender. They cannot surrender. For them, this is extinction or victory." Captain Shin had brought her guerrilla fighters to join the main fleet. "Then we make sure it is extinction. For too long, the galaxy has lived in fear of these creatures. Time to show them what fear really looks like." The final assault on the Vorthak homeworld was the largest military operation in galactic history. Humans fought alongside former slaves from dozens of species. Ships that had once terrorized entire sectors now flew together against their former masters. General Oh led the ground assault, while Admiral Kim commanded the space battle. Captain Lee's ship was the first to break through the Vorthak defensive lines. Dr. Lim's new weapons proved effective against enemy armor, but it was Captain Shin who delivered the decisive blow. While the main battle raged in space, she led a small team to the planet's surface. Their target was not military but psychological. They found the Vorthak cloning facilities where new warriors were created. Instead of destroying them, Shin broadcast images of the laboratories to the entire galaxy. Everyone could see the truth. The mighty Vorthak Empire was just a collection of artificial beings trying desperately to avoid extinction. The broadcast broke what remained of Vorthak morale. Many of their soldiers simply stopped fighting. Others began surrendering for the first time in their species' history. War Prime. Thakmor found himself alone in his command center as his empire crumbled around him. His fleet was destroyed. His worlds were in rebellion. His people were giving up, but he still had one card to play. Ancient Vorthak law allowed him to challenge the enemy leader to single combat. If he won, all hostilities would end, and every species would submit to Vorthak rule. If he lost, the Empire would surrender completely. It was a desperate gamble, but it was his only chance. Admiral Kim received the challenge while standing on the bridge of his flagship. Around him, the final battle for the Vorthak homeworld was reaching its climax. Victory was within reach. "He wants to fight me personally," Kim told his officers. "Winner takes everything." "It is obviously a trap," Captain Lee said. "Do not accept." But Kim was already putting on his combat armor. Like Ji-won before him, he had been enhanced with human technology. Unlike her, he was not fighting alone. The entire galaxy was behind him now. "Ji-won showed us that someone has to stand up and say no," Kim said. "Now it is my turn." The final challenge would take place on the surface of the Vorthak homeworld, in the ruins of their greatest city. The whole galaxy would be watching. The ruins of Vorthak Prime stretched as far as Admiral Kim could see. Once this had been the capital of an empire that controlled most of the galaxy. Now it was a broken city where desperate aliens made their final stand. Kim walked through the rubble toward the meeting place. His enhanced armor gleamed in the light of the dying sun. Behind him, human and rebel ships waited in orbit. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched and waited. War Prime Thakmor stood in what had once been the Empire's great arena. Like his ancestors, he was massive and covered in scars from 1,000 battles. But Kim could see something in the alien's eyes that had never been there before. Fear. "You came," Thakmor said. His voice was still strong, but it lacked the certainty it had carried for centuries. "I thought humans might be too coward to face me alone." Kim stopped 20 feet away from the alien leader. "Humans do not run from bullies. We learned that from Sergeant Major Ji-won." At the mention of Ji-won's name, Thakmor's expression changed. The human woman had done more than defeat his champions. She had broken the myth of Vorthak invincibility that his empire was built on. "She fought well," Thakmor admitted, "but she is dead, and you will join her soon." The battle began without ceremony. Thakmor moved with the speed and power that had made his species the terror of the galaxy. His claws could slice through battleship armor. His strength could crush metal like paper. But Kim had learned from Ji-won's example. He did not try to match the alien's strength. Instead, he used human tactics, mobility, unpredictability, fighting dirty when necessary. When Thakmor lunged forward, Kim rolled to the side and struck at the alien's knee. When the War Prime tried to grab him, Kim used the ruins around them as weapons, throwing chunks of metal and concrete. "You fight like a coward," Thakmor snarled after missing another attack. "I fight like a human," Kim replied. "We do whatever it takes to protect what matters to us." The battle raged for an hour. Both fighters were bloodied and exhausted. Kim's armor was cracked in several places. Thakmor was moving more slowly, his ancient body finally showing its age. That was when the War Prime did something unexpected. He stopped attacking and sat down among the ruins. "I am tired," Thakmor said. "So very tired. Do you know how old I am, human?" Kim kept his weapon ready but did not attack. "Tell me." 2,000 years. I have been fighting for 2,000 years. I have conquered worlds and destroyed civilizations. I have seen species kneel before me and beg for mercy. The alien looked at his claws, stained with the blood of countless victims. I thought it made me strong. Why are you telling me this? Thakmor looked up at the sky where human ships waited. Because your Jiwan taught me something. Strength is not about who you can defeat. It is about what you are willing to sacrifice for others. My people lost that knowledge long ago. Kim lowered his weapon slightly. What do you mean? We were not always conquerors, Thakmor said. Long ago, my species were explorers and scientists. We wanted to learn about the universe and share knowledge with other beings, but we made ourselves into weapons instead. The alien stood up slowly. Kim tensed, ready to defend himself, but Thakmor made no threatening moves. Our genetic modifications were supposed to make us better, stronger, faster, more intelligent. Instead, they made us dependent on conflict to survive. We cannot live without war because our bodies require the chemicals that combat produces. Kim began to understand. You are addicted to fighting. Yes, and like all addicts, we told ourselves we were choosing our actions, but we were not. We were slaves to our own biology. Thakmor looked at the ruins around them. Every world we conquered, every species we enslaved, it was not for glory or empire. It was because we would die without constant warfare. Then why tell me this now? Because watching you and your people fight has shown me something I thought was impossible. There is another way to be strong. You fight not because you must, but because you choose to protect others. That is real strength. Kim kept his weapon ready but found himself listening. What are you proposing? My empire is finished. The rebellions will not stop now. My people will either die in battle or waste away without war to sustain them. Unless, what? Thakmor met Kim's eyes. Unless you help us find a cure for what we have done to ourselves. Your scientists are clever. Your doctors perform miracles. Perhaps together we can find a way for my people to live without needing to kill. Kim considered the offer. Around them, the broken city stood as testimony to the cost of Vorthak aggression. Billions had died because of this alien's empire. The logical response was to let them face extinction. But that would not be the human way, and it would not be what Jiwan would have wanted. If we do this, Kim said, your people will have to make up for what they have done. Every world you conquered will need to be rebuilt. Every species you enslaved will need to be freed and compensated. Agreed. And you will submit to judgment by the species you have wronged. Some may choose execution over forgiveness. Thakmor nodded slowly. That is fair. We have much to answer for. Kim made his decision. Then I accept your surrender. The Vorthak Empire ends today. What comes next depends on whether your people are willing to change. The formal surrender took place the next day. War Prime Thakmor knelt before representatives from dozens of species and formally dissolved the empire that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. Some of the former slaves wanted immediate execution of all Vorthak. Others called for exile to distant worlds. But humanity's voice carried special weight now. They had been the ones to break Vorthak power. When Admiral Kim spoke for mercy and rehabilitation, many listened. Dr. Park Minji led the scientific team that began studying Vorthak biology. Their findings were disturbing but not hopeless. The aliens' addiction to combat chemicals could be treated, but it would take generations of careful genetic therapy. They are not evil, Dr. Park reported to the Galactic Council. They are sick. For thousands of years they have been prisoners of their own modifications. We can help them, but only if they truly want to change. The process was slow and painful. Many Vorthak chose death rather than live without the thrill of battle. Others fought against the treatments that would free them from their addiction. But some, led by Thakmor himself, embraced the chance to become something better. 1 year after the fall of their empire, former Vorthak warriors worked alongside their former slaves to rebuild damaged worlds. It was strange to see the galaxy's former masters carrying supplies and operating construction equipment. But for the first time in millennia, they were building instead of destroying. The Jiwan Memorial was dedicated on the anniversary of her death, Representatives from hundreds of species gathered on Luna to honor the human woman who had started the revolution that freed the galaxy. Admiral Kim, now older and scarred by war, spoke at the ceremony. She was just one soldier, one human being who refused to accept that evil was too strong to defeat. Because of her sacrifice, the galaxy is free. In the crowd, he saw former slaves standing next to former masters. Humans worked alongside aliens who had once been enemies. Children played together regardless of what species they belonged to. Dr. Park approached him after the ceremony. "Do you think she would be proud of what we have accomplished?" Kim looked at the statue of Jiwan that stood at the center of the memorial. The artist had captured her perfectly, not as a superhuman warrior, but as an ordinary person who had chosen to do extraordinary things. "She would be proud that we chose to heal instead of destroy," Kim said. "That we gave even our enemies a chance to become better. That is what makes us human." Thakmor, now serving as a counselor helping other Vorthak adjust to their new lives, approached the memorial. Many in the crowd watched him suspiciously. The wounds of the past would take time to heal. He placed a simple flower at the base of Jiwan's statue and spoke in a voice only Kim could hear. "Thank you for showing us what real strength looks like." As the sun set over Luna, ships from across the galaxy departed for their homeworlds. The age of Vorthak terror was over. The age of cooperation was beginning. It had cost humanity 30 billion lives and the devastation of entire star systems. But they had achieved something that seemed impossible. They had turned the galaxy's greatest enemy into an ally. Admiral Kim stood alone before the memorial as the last ships disappeared into hyperspace. The statue of Jiwan seemed to be smiling at him in the moonlight. "We did it," he whispered. "We showed them that humans do not just survive. We make sure others can survive too." In the years that followed, the galaxy would face new challenges and new threats. But they would face them together, united by the example of one human woman who had refused to kneel before impossible odds. The strongest warriors in the universe had challenged mankind. In the end, none of them made it out alive. But from there, ashes, something better was born. The universe had learned what it meant to be human.